Jim Jasey interview, part 2.
Once while we all got together and shared with each other. Once that started happening, for some unknown, well, I know what the reason is. The powers, the people who ran that facility, the director at that time said that we would have to leave, that find another group. Another place, because this is not a church. So I had to, talk to him and try to see if I could change his mind. And that just didn't work out. So we found another place. At that time, we bonded and we became one. And it was a good thing. It was a good thing that we became one because we have more resources, more direction, and we all had the same issues anyway. So why not men and women get together? So that was good. That was a good thing. Okay. And that's when Beyond Your Eyes became as one.
Okay, cool. One moment, please. If you have background noise and you're unmuted, let me just ask you if you could please mute while we have the interview going on. We're going to do Q&A soon, but please mute your phone if you're not speaking because we're picking up your noise in the background and this is being recorded. Thank you. All right. Also, okay, so Jim, well, I call you Jim,
Yeah, anybody call me Jim James. Don't call me late for dinner.
That's right. Don't call you out the room when we're serving. That's right. So, so another question I guess I would like to ask you so that the listening audience can hear. With your new way of doing things after, your incident where you lost your vision, were you faced with the challenge or the issue of people not showing you, let's say, respect or courtesy, or people taking, you lightly or taking you for granted simply because you were now visually impaired or, like you said, totally blind? And if so, how did you work through that situation?
So in the beginning, because you go to school, I've been to a couple of different schools, JKTC, I went to Denver, lost Alliance there. So I did a couple of trainings in those, and in the seeing eye, I had 3 guide dogs. So in all those structured environments, you learn how to do a lot with people, outside people, by yourself, walking buildings, walking areas, learning new ways, technology, Braille, if you choose to do Braille. I flew all over the country. There are other people who get involved in other organizations, and once they learn what they need to do, they start expanding their reach, either by themselves, with a dog, or with somebody, but they just keep moving. And that's what happened to me. And yet and still, with all of that, it just seems like it don't matter sometimes. It seems like people still doubt your ability. And how I deal with it is with a process. First, I used to get very upset because people challenge you.
Mm-hmm.
Not nasty, but they really make an assumption that you don't know how to do this and that. And somewhat I could understand it, but not totally, because people sometimes people won't listen to you, and some people just say, well, he can't see, he don't know. Like, as you know, they don't, kids are very good. Kids, I could tell them something, they'll watch me and listen to me, and then they'll step back.
Mm-hmm.
But you let somebody, after they get a couple of straight A's in their class and they graduate from this and that, they know everything now. So now they'll follow you. Some people are very nurturing. And I don't mind the help. I know sometimes I need help, but when I ask for it, I know when I'm in trouble. But they won't listen. They go ahead of time, and so they won't, and I just want them to live. It's like I want my sons and my daughter to live. They're okay with me. They could walk away from me. My granddaughter could walk away from me. They know my capability. To me, it's simple stuff. Just walk to the corner, make a left, make a right. But some people can't imagine nobody doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Even with this time of technology. And I hear it. I failed to tell you this. I work with Rutgers Eye to Eye as a peer support specialist. It's a phone-based support that I and I think it's about 7 or 8 other peer support specialists that people will call us because of the website that's on Rutgers' website. They'll call us and they'll assign me all of us certain people, and we'll talk to them, and they'll tell us some of the same issues that I mentioned to you. They'll call me, and I'll say, well, and I'll just listen at first. I'll see what their goals are, what they want, what problems are, and then try to talk them through it. And it's been helpful. It's the next best thing, being one-on-one with a person in person. And you're on-one, and you're talking to them, you're encouraging them, you're supporting them, you're hearing what all the issues or craziness that might be going on. There are people that's being abused. Mm-hmm. There's people that's being taken advantage of because they can't see. There's people whose parents just are protecting their son or daughter or their husband and don't learn what they need to learn because they're afraid or they want to keep them under their control. One of the two. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff that's so important to not necessarily. None of us are 100% independent, but you should be aware of all the possibilities and your capabilities. And that's what I want to see of people, and I want to learn from people with various disabilities so I could be aware as well. But there's a lot of sad stuff. There's a lot of good stuff going on. There's some amazing people that they didn't go through the process I went through. They just started. They start learning. They start hearing. They took off. So it's a lot of different scenarios, but I'm concerned about people who are locked up in their blindness. It's like they're blind 3 times over, and it shouldn't be that way.
Now, so that's an important point right there as to what you actually do, and I say that because there are a lot of people, like you said, that wouldn't even think for a moment that someone who's totally blind or even visually impaired with blindness would be able to function, let's say, in the workplace or in some other capacity, like you said, simply because they have, this challenge in front of them. But when you went to work when you actually got hired where you are now, was that a challenge that you had to face with being hired? Or did they treat you with the same respect that they would treat any other person who was applying for the position?
What? So, how this job even got started? I think I've been doing it 9 or 10 years. How it wasn't even in existence. It wasn't even thought of. And what happened was, I got a phone call from the Commission for the Blind saying you should come to this facilitators meeting. There was about maybe 16 around the state at during that time, probably a lot more now. And said, bring Teresa. She's in my group as well. She's a visually impaired minister and social worker, clinical social worker. But she did not have a job. And she had all these gifts that she had, but it's hard. She did a lot of training here and a lot of training there. She went to school. So I didn't know why she asked me to bring her as well, so I did. And there was a room of people there in the Jake Joseph Cole Rehabilitation Center with this woman, a professor and a psychologist from Rutgers University. And they started talking about peer-to-peer groups that she had started, cop to cop, because her husband was a retired police officer in Newark, and there was a lot of cops got problems and issues with internal affairs, whether with their wives, whether they were stealing, and they needed someone. They just trapped up in some stuff that probably shouldn't have been in. And so you had a retired cop talking, and she was the third person, the therapist. And it was under HIPAA laws because they went and got grant. More and more retired police officers came in to help out the police officers in the streets. Mm-hmm. And it started to blow up. So they started thinking, well, how about there's other issues. So let's have vets to vets. They started vets to vets there. And then they started moms to moms, mothers who have people with kids, mothers and fathers who have kids with developmental disabilities. The Hope, I don't know why it wasn't called Hope to Hope, but they had the Hope group with people who were on drugs. They help out people, the former people who are drugs, help out people who are on drugs. And on and on and on. So social workers, they got a lot of, that's a serious job. So they had worker to worker. And so one of the professors working with, her name was Cherie Castellano, one of the her professors that work with her, he all of a sudden he lost his sight. Just like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And for some reason, his eyesight was restored. Not totally, but he could function. And he went to her. He said, I know you got this peer-to-peer about people who are blind. Need some support like that. So she said to us, would you guys have liked it if you had somebody to speak to? Could understand, that could hear you, that could relate. I got so excited. I got so excited. Everybody in that room, because they know what that would have did for them. Right. They were mostly, when they lose sight, you're around people who have no idea what that is like.
Exactly.
And they dealt with it. And these are people who were lost their sight longer than I have. And they were more excited. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, what would you like it to be called? And we said, Eye to Eye. They had grants for it. I ran up there after her presentation was over. I said, there's a person sitting next to me. She's a social worker. She's a minister. She has vision loss. Where is she? I brought her up to Teresa. Teresa had her resume right in her pocketbook. It almost knocked me on the ground. And so when we went home, and as I'm driving home, I had a Lyft ride. I said, why not me? I don't have the degree or academia level that anybody else has. I have the I've been experiencing people with disabilities since I've been a kid. Why not me? So I put in for it, and I got the job. And now was it uncomfortable? We had to learn some skills. We had to get orientated to it, as far as listening to the person, asking them what they're looking for, find out what areas in their life are they lacking, finances and or just support or their environment, and see how that could be filled. So it wasn't really that difficult, except that some some people want to stay right where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't make nobody do anything. And that's where you have to accept when people are resistant, whether it be in their minds or their family members. You can't make nobody do nothing. So you just give them their options, and then if they want to go for it, then you help them. I start out with giving them my story like I gave here, and then it goes from there. They give me their story, what their issue are, and then it goes from there.
Okay. And I wanted to say, now, I was introduced to Beyond the Eyes, and I think that was right after the pandemic was over, when everything started to open back up. And I remember my rehabilitation counselor at the time with the commission was Laurel King. And I remember I was working with her, and she was teaching me Braille and everything. And we started talking about, like, other people. Like, I was saying, hey, I don't really know anybody else, other than, her. I said, I don't know anybody else but you, really, that, I can relate to and talk to, because everybody where I am, they're all sighted. So I don't have anybody who's going through the same thing that I'm going through that can really identify with, with me. And I remember she told me, she said, well, you ever heard of Jim Jasey? And I said, well, no, who's that? And she said, well, he has a support group called Beyond the Eyes, and they needed to Nook Library, but let me call them and see where they're meeting today. And I remember that was the day that your group had met at a restaurant, and she told me where it was, and I came up there, and I remember when I went over to the table, and you were there, and everybody was eating, and everybody was talking and laughing, and I'm the new guy in there, right? And I said, well, yeah, Laurel King told me that you guys have a support group and that you guys are going to meet here today, and she said she's going to reach out to you. And the thing that impressed me the most was the fact that you said, nice to meet you. You shook my hand. You asked me my name. You told me yours. And you said to everybody, this is Marcus. Everybody say hello. And everybody said, hey, Marcus. And it was just like, I was part of the group.
That's right.
And ever since then, I've been a part of Beyond the Eyes, and I come to the meetings, and, my assistant, she comes with me, and she's sighted, and she helps out a lot. And you all have accepted her as a member of Beyond the Eyes as well, because he's always there to give a hand. Like you said, when you need it, you know, there are people there for you, and they being around us know what our challenges are. They know when to step in, but then they know when to back off and let us do what we do. You know, and if we need help, they're there to steer us in the direction that we need to go. So I just wanted to say that and put that little plug in there, because so many places that I had been to before when I was going through my journey, I wasn't getting that kind of welcome. You know, everybody, like you said, would kind of look at me and wonder. And then there was some people who actually seemed like they were nervous around me. And I couldn't understand why. I'm like, what's there to be nervous about me? You know? But, exactly. Yeah. But I just want to say that, you know, it was a breath of fresh air, and it was a real good feeling to come to Beyond the Eyes and just be accepted, and you know, been a part of everything, you know. And I'm really glad to have come into, you know, the group and met.
And you notice one thing about, I mean, that I see in Beyond the Eyes, and I'm sure it's also, is that they all spread their wings. They just don't sit there and Beyond the Eyes are just going to be. They go all, you two, all over the place. And then you bring back to the table, with Beyond the Eyes table, what you got from somewhere else. That's how it should be.
Yes, you're right about that. It's not a group where people come in and just sit around and, you know, drink tea and just talk and, you know, all of that stuff. We're actually doing stuff. We're getting involved in the community. And I must say that I attribute that to a lot of the members, but from you as well. You give us information. You tell us about events that are happening that you're going to. And we've even, you know, tagged along with you and gone to different events. You know, like we went to BIC that time, you know.
That acronym means, if anybody don't know, BIC is New Jersey Black Issues Convention. Black Issues Committee as well. And they address things legislatively as far as the black African Americans are concerned. Senator Ronald Rice chaired that at one time. So it's a group of leaders in different parts of the black community who have some issues that need to be changed, and they bring it to the table, and it's brought to the Trenton, to the Assembly and the Senate for a change. And he just showed us how to go through that. BIC is still, Senator Rice unfortunately left, but there's other leaders, so it's still going on. And every once in a while they have a convention. I think September or October, they have a convention, and they have workshops. So we talk about the issues, whether it be killing police officers not understanding a person with a disability. So there was a workshop on that at one time, and how to deal with that and what to do and the changes that should be made. Education and housing, one thing after another. They continue to press, because the fight will always be going on for the rest of our lives. And so that's and I just believe that people who are differently able should be at the table there too, even though they don't know how. Sometimes they don't know how to engage. Well, we got to teach them how to engage with us and what our issues are. So I'm so grateful that Beyond the Eyes do come, participate, so they could be more knowledgeable, and they have to address our concerns.
Yes. That also speaks to another point that I wanted to ask you about. Maybe you could share, your knowledge about um, advocacy when it comes to people under vision loss, to those who are differently abled. Um, how has your journey, especially with, let's say, the places you've been, JKTC, CBVI, and then with the support groups, Beyond the Eyes, and other, groups or organizations or even people, groups that you've worked with or connected with, how has advocacy been strengthened, in terms of your knowledge now and how that works towards, our advantages?
I have mixed feelings about that.
Okay.
I think that since the ADA laws came out, there have been some changes. Some I don't even know of. I'm becoming more aware of.
Mm-hmm.
In the schools, they have things for the kids where they have to be assessed. If the teachers catch it, then they get assessed, and they're not necessarily separated from their class or put in special rooms, but they do get the help that they need to be able to engage and to grow. So that always wasn't the case. Um, you know, things are so different now than when I first lost my sight, and probably even more so before I lost my sight. Things just wasn't accessible.
Mm-hmm.
But I still, but they are a lot more. At least they're available. Jobs are still kind of discriminating still, but not as much. Me being totally blind and you having some vision, if me and you and we everything else is equal except that, you would probably get the job before me.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I there's a lot less blind people than there are visually impaired people. Not that blind people don't achieve or haven't overcame a lot of stuff, but I find it was a marked difference between the amount of blind people compared to people who are visually impaired. The challenges are different, maybe even more severe if you could see a little bit, and if I walk to a flight of steps, 14 steps down, I don't have to wonder what's before my cane to feel the steps. I just go, bang, 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 bang.
Mm-hmm.
But a person who's visually impaired, they're always looking at the contrast on the steps. And it could be, and it's different. It's a different challenges. To me, mine's is simple. I just can't see. It's just dark. So I adjusted to it. The person who can see a little to the left or to the right, or a little pinhole through their eyes, I know there's a person who could see a whole room, but won't see a pole or a chair in the middle of that room.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many different eye problems there is. So you can't tell from one person to another what help they need. That's why you need to ask each and every single person, how can I help you? Because your challenges are different.
Right, right.
So why I go back and forth with it, because it haven't been enough help. I mean, enough changes being made, and now with DEI being that being squashed because of this administration, there are people who have jobs and they need accessibility, the jobs could say to them now, we don't have to give you that. Get it yourself. We don't have to supply that. They're a lot more resistant, even though that would be help their job. They're just ignorant.
Mm.
And they discriminate. So what do you do?
Mm.
So that's why I go back and forth with it. And my other, it's just, I went to Mississippi to the Blind Veteran Association training down there. It's different from in New Jersey. New Jersey just do a couple of days in every area. But it was more complete in Mississippi, in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Mm.
And there was veterans from all over, men and women of different ranks, who was being trained in every single area, whether it be walking mobility, whether it be technology, whether it be the phone, whether it be devices, other devices that they have now, all kinds of stuff. They let you walk around that whole building. It's about 4 rooms, 4 floors, and you're walking all over this place by yourself to get from class to class. And these are people with high academia levels.
Okay.
But they were either visually impaired, or they had one arm or one leg. They had all kinds of disabilities, helping people with disabilities and or visually impaired. And they just engaged. And then what I was impressed with them is that they've been doing it for years. It was so complete and so comfortable in that when they sit in one-on-one, each of these classes, you're one-on-one with these teachers.
Mm.
They didn't just teach you. They got in your space. They opened up their lives, and you opened up, because of that, you opened up your life. And you became like a brother or a sister.
Mm-hmm.
Became a friend. While they're teaching you, they're loving you, and vice versa. And that, to me, that was an unusual space. One person told me her journey, I couldn't believe how much she succeeded with all the mental issues that she was dealing in her family, in her, and in her kids. And she still got the nerve to help other people with all those challenges that I heard. And all of them was that way. It was just, it made it seem challenges are normal and you could get through it. And I felt so relaxed going there. And when I came back, I didn't almost want to come home because of, I knew that space wasn't here.
Right. Mm. And I do remember communicating with you when you were, you told us that you were going there. And when you were there, I did reach out to you, and ask you how things were going. And I remember you told me, that it was good, and it was a place where you could just go and just relax, because the whole vibe was just one where it was just relaxed, and it was, like comforting.
Yeah.
It was safe, it was secure, and you had no worries at all.
I felt very free, and most of the men and women did. It was a good space to be in.
Mm. Now, one last thing I wanted to ask you before we open up the room to see if people want to make comments, give you accolades, or even ask questions. Would you tell a little bit more about Beyond the Eyes and what Beyond the Eyes is about, what some of the accomplishments, and even some of the events that people can look forward to from Beyond the Eyes, and and when those things take place?
The main accomplishment and breakthroughs for me is when I hear a person come from their home or their life and just launch a site, don't know how to deal with it. And when they come a couple of times and they say, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't know. I did not know. First they're quiet the first day or two, checking everybody out, becoming friends, but they're quiet. But little by little, when you see them opening up like a flower, it's amazing to me. What's below doubt and fear. I'd love to hear. I heard one woman already been through it, and another woman comes in, and she's quiet, and then she starts coming out with all her concerns and fears and what she's going through. And a woman across the table who already been there says, "You're telling my story. You're telling my story." And for some reason, that to hear stuff like that, that's the breakthroughs, that's the victories that I see. Probably a lot more that I don't see, but it's very moving to see that type of thing going on. I will tell you, before you came around, Marcus, there was a gentleman who was, they called the big man. He started getting involved with us. He was a bouncer at a bar in Irvington. Then he started losing his sight. He came to Beyond the Eyes. He was quiet at first, but then he got involved with singing with us and hanging with us. And I did not know at the time, but little by little, he was on dialysis, and his body was going through something that he really didn't share that much about. All of a sudden, he wasn't there. And he went down south to Virginia, and he finally called up. He said he was down there, but he was down there so he could transition. He just wanted to be away from this area so he could transition. He passed away, and that's when I found out a little bit more about him. So a gentleman who knew him, that were good friends and was sighted, called me up one day and said, "You knew the big man. He loved your group. He changed when he went to your group." And he started talking about things, about God, about a lot of things, because we do pray before every meeting. We do believe in that. We that's one thing that I'm so grateful to be with my group, because we don't mind talking about the Lord. We don't mind engaging with anybody. One of the gentlemen he's Muslim. We love him. We love him. He's awesome. And so we don't mind opening up about that. And so we didn't know with the big man that we had moved him to so much. So this gentleman came to the group, and he told us how we affected his life. So you asked about the events. We have a meeting every month, except around the holidays we try to hang out together. But every month we have a meeting. It's on the website, beyondtheeyes.info. We have once a month we have to try to get, and I'm sorry, once during the year we have a motivational speaker around September or October. And once a year we try to have a concert with people singing, giving praise to God. It don't necessarily have to be a spiritual song, but just something to uplift and encourage people. And then along with that, we just lost our playwriter, Adrian
Yeah.
canteen, but she created plays for us. We were doing it before she came around, but she enhanced the plays to talk to the two people. Just let them see the challenges that people who are blind and visually have, or people with other disabilities have, in play form. So, and it's fun, it's good. We eat, we have fun, we laugh. It's just a good feeling. So those are the two big things that we have during the year. And then meetings every month.
Yes, yes, yes. The open house, like you said, is always around September, October. And then the spring concert, I think, is always around May. Yeah.
That's right.
It's always a good time. And, I know those events are also catered. So you have your resources and your people that you bring in for that. And it's always a good time. And, we're at the Newark Public Library, right there on Washington Street.
That's right.
So, everything is done there. And we do have a good time. We have a really good time. And I must say that that has been one of the shining stars in my life during my journey right now, is just being a part of the group and being around everybody and looking forward, to coming to the meetings every month, rain, sleet, snow, shine, unless we get the call, that everybody gets, and, we get, a little bit different instructions. But other than that, coming there and, like you said, laughing and, having a good time and just, being around people and being able just to let your hair down. And
sometimes it's not laughing, we get very serious.
Yes, yes.
So there's a gentleman, and I'm not knocking nobody's group. I just have to say this, that he was leading a group in Ocean County somewhere. And I just finished hearing someone in the northern area having a meeting, another group, where someone had cancer. She just opened up and was sharing with